Somebody recently asked me, who are my sleepers? Who is my West Coast sleeper for the NBA playoffs? And the first team that shockingly came to my mind, not a team I talk about a ton, not a team that has historically gone very deep into the playoffs, not a team that has attracted a ton of free agents, but a team that's playing really well right now, and a team that is doing all the right things at the right time of the year. Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks. It sickens me to even say that, but it's true. What a crazy year. If you're a Mavs fan, it hasn't gone quite the way that you were hoping when you saw Luka play for Team Slovenia. You were hoping that maybe this would get him in shape faster, and in fact, it actually got him out of shape faster because he chilled all the way out after the Olympics were over. He said, I ate too much, I hung around on the beach too much, and then he was basically fat and injured for the majority of the beginning of the season. And as Luka goes, the Mavs go. Last year ended, of course, disastrously. The Mavs should have beaten the Clippers, but Kawhi was a robot, so, fine, right? They led to the exit of the only coach to ever win a championship in Dallas. There was tons of drama. Luka hated Rick Carlisle. Luka hated the fact that Kristaps Porzingis was still a Maverick. Luka hated the fact that they got rid of Dennis Smith Jr. There was just hit piece after hit piece after hit piece. Accusations about the front office. There was scandals. There was finger pointing. There was Luka saying nothing. Chirp, 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 chirp. And, of course, that led to Rick Carlisle being offered a 1-year deal, which was pretty much like a prove-it deal. He said no. Now he's in Indiana. Now we've got Jason Kidd. Fast forward. And all of this was then dumped into the lap of Jason Kidd, who, well, let's face it, has had his own share of off-the-court controversy, I might say. So things were starting off a little rocky. A little rocky from a reputational standpoint. Like, hey, do we even want to hire Jason Kidd? You hire a first-time GM who came from the brand side in Nico Harrison. Good dude, but unprecedented. Does he even have relationships with the rest of the league? He's been slanging shoes for athletes for 20 years. So let's just say the expectations were sort of tepid, right? Fast forward to today. Not only has the team been restructured by shipping out Porzingis to Washington for Bertans and Dinwiddie, but the entire nature of this team has been transformed. So let's get into it, because there's a few major things that the Mavs have done to put themselves into a position to do what I would consider to be damage. They could knock off a really good team in the first round. First, Luka is back in shape. Luka's not fat anymore. Luka has been able to finish out games strong. He said he's not winded in fourth quarters anymore. That's huge. I would say your superstar not being winded in fourth quarters, completely out of breath, needing the oxygen mask, I would say that's huge. Also, the Mavs are the hottest team in the West right now. Momentum is big. It has everything to do with that defensive intensity and, of course, Luka's health and we'll call it wellness. Fatness. And because he's not fluffy anymore, he's able to defend. Well, he's still kind of fluffy. He's defending at a career high point. He even told people, I think it was LA, he yelled at the crowd, I fucking play defense now. What's up? Like, okay, Luka. He went from a liability on D, where everybody was making fun of him because he was slow and, able to get cooked. Even KD said, he kind of plays possum with how quick he is. He tries to be slow on purpose, and now he's a plus defender right now. Since December 31st, when the Mavs started their tear, Luka has a defensive rating of 104.5 and an offensive rating of 112. That is an 8.5 net rating, and he was a negative 14 when he was fat. That's a big turnaround, I'd say. And because he's not a defensive liability anymore, the team defense is all the way up, as they say. A lot of this, though, falls on a couple of players. Reggie Bullock, who they poached from the Knicks, and Maxi Kleber. Reggie Bullock has a defensive rating of 108.6, and Maxi Kleber has a defensive rating of 106 as well. But the team defense is the reason to me that Dallas is so dangerous. Mavericks, by the numbers, we'll get into some nerd shit really fast. Number 2 in NBA in opponents' points per game, 103.7. Number 1 in the NBA right now in opponents' points in the fourth quarter, 24 points they're allowing in the fourth quarter. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd. Number 2 in defending the three, they're only giving up just shy of 11 threes per game. They're number 6 in opponent free throws per game at 15.1. They don't foul a lot. And that is because they're able to play defense and stay out of the bonus in a place where that leads to less fourth quarter points per game. Number 2 in opponents' offensive rebounds per game at 9.4. They're number 1 in the NBA in blocks per game at just shy of 4. They're number 3 in the NBA at steals per game at just shy of 7. So what does this all mean? To me, it means that Jason Kidd has installed not only an incredibly active defense that challenges a lot of shots, hence the blocks, presses the ball beyond the three-point line, hence the three-point defense, blocking out like a stone wall, which is why their other teams aren't getting any rebounds, and doing it all while not fouling, which means that fourth quarter points come at a premium given the fact, like I said, that they're not in the bonus, these opposing teams. They're basically able to have greater cushion in the fourth quarter to amp up the defensive intensity while not worrying about teams going to the free throw line. Sheesh! Second thing about the Mavs is that they have decided we're building around Luka and we're okay with just one star. We're okay with just one star. Probably the only team with one star that could actually contend right now is the Mavs. And that meant get rid of the unicorn. Give up that experiment. He is no star and not going to be a star here, so ship him all the way out. Here's what became apparent to Jason Kidd. He felt that Kristaps Porzingis was in the way, and then the opportunity arose to get 2 contracts that are movable for one big inflated contract. So they pulled the trigger, and he did that knowing full well what the ceiling could be on a one-star team. The Mavs did it with Dirk Nowitzki. They won it with 1 star and a bunch of role players like himself. They brought in Davis Bertans and Spencer Dinwiddie. They got a system that works for both players, and it shows. The new starting lineup of Luka, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, Jalen Brunson, and Dwight Powell are, check this number, nerd shit, alert, open your eyes, plus 51 in 173 minutes. That starting lineup is a plus 51 in 173 minutes, and of course that means that they are winning a lot of basketball games. Dinwiddie said recently on a quote that this team knows what they need to do. Brunson knows how he fits with Luka on the court and knows how to lead when Luka is resting. They both know how to work together synergistically to be able to lift up that superstar, a single superstar and a bunch of really good role players. And although they don't have a super highly rated offense, they are number 3 in the NBA in the least amount of turnovers. They're number 7 in the league in assist-to-turnover ratio. So they're super efficient on offense because Jalen Brunson is one of the best point guards in the league, and we've talked about this before, at not turning the ball over and being able to assist at a high rate. He's averaging only 1.73 turnovers per game on 32 minutes a game. Luka averaged like 5 turnovers a game. So if they didn't have Luka on the team, they would be probably number 1 in the league at assist-to-turnover ratio. Period. And of course, another big turning point for this team is getting Spencer Dinwiddie, who the Wizards did not want, who the Wizards thought was a cultural issue, who the Wizards thought was clashing with the rest of the squad and Brad Beal in particular because he wanted to be a star. But listen, Dinwiddie on a good team understands he is no star. He understands he's a good off-the-bench guy, and he's fitting in perfectly. 18, 2, and 6 in his first few weeks. But what's even more important is how he functions when Luka's off the floor, which we've seen as well. We'll get to that in a second. And that is shocking. The whole fit with Dallas is probably shocking to a lot of Wizards fans. Dinwiddie, I thought he was a cancer. A lot of people in Washington thought he was the locker room problem. But now that he's out in Dallas, by the way, Dinwiddie had 36, 2, and 7 leading a Luka-less Mavs team. 36-2-7. Wow, that's the low assist number though, isn't it? He was hooping. He let the world know after the fact, after they played the Kings, how he was feeling about playing in Washington. This is what Dinwiddie said. When the role changed in Washington and they wanted me to pass more, they felt like I was scoring a lot, and I did that. I took my foot off the gas scoring-wise because that's what they felt, the team needed to get Kuzma and KCP involved and those guys' shots. I said, look, I already got paid. I don't care. If this is about y'all trying to get the shots y'all need, whatever. But to be bashed on the way out of the door hurt my feelings for sure. I think I'm human, of course. The I think I'm human part just solidifies to me who Dinwiddie is. But that is another story and another topic for another day. Because when someone says, I think I'm human, he's questioning all of his reality at all times. It's something that's definitely, get off the weed, Spencer. Anyway, when asked about the biggest difference between the two teams, Spencer said, not to beat a dead horse, but Dallas's commitment to the collective and to the winning games is all that matters to them. Yikes. That is damning. That is damning in terms of how the Wizards were operating while he was there, in his opinion. And, of course, the NBA being the NBA, the Wizards responded. And Wes Unseld Jr. decided, I'm going to go into deflection mode and said, well, we're not going to get into the accuracy of that statement. Oh, okay. That's one of those classic coach speak where it's like he's definitely calling Spencer Dinwiddie a liar without saying he's a liar, because it's like, well, I'm just not going to get into the accuracy. Or, by the way, Spencer Dinwiddie could be totally telling the truth, and that's like the biggest deflection because he doesn't even want to say whether he's going to question the validity or not, because if he did, he might have to lie on the record. Classic stuff. Then we have Kyle Kuzma, who then was also asked about Spencer Dinwiddie's comments. NBA drama is my favorite thing in the world. And he goes, I'm sure if you go back to tidbits, I know I always said I wanted him to be aggressive. I know Beal always said he wanted Spence to be aggressive. So I'm just going to leave it at that. We're past that, honestly. We're focused on the guys that are here. If you go back to tidbits, that's such a funny word. Tidbits. Here's the thing that's true. Spencer was pissed because he was getting buckets. His role was asked to change. He didn't want to be a sixth man when he was being paid to be a starter. That was pretty evident and said multiple times around the team because Spencer Dinwiddie believes that his skill set is on the same level as Kyrie Irving. He didn't want to be relegated on a team like the Wizards, which frankly makes a lot of sense given when he was scoring a lot, the Wizards were winning, and when he was not scoring a lot, the Wizards were losing. So I get all that. Probably a better scorer than the rest of the Wizards roster outside of maybe Kuz, maybe Beal, probably Beal, but not in the fourth quarter, for sure not. He's not a point guard, but he's not quite a shooting guard. So the fit was weird. The role was strange. And truthfully, the biggest criticism that I've heard about the Wizards is all about Wes Unseld Jr. A lot of players I heard find his offense to be quite confusing. And they are, what did he say? I'm not going to get into, and they're not going to get into the accuracy of whether he can coach or not. They're not going to get into the accuracy of whether his shit makes any damn sense at all, but they're questioning whether it is the case. Jason Kidd, though, who has done this a time or two, is making shit very simple in Dallas. And that's how you get guys like Spencer Dinwiddie to not worry about all the noise and focus on like 6 plays, which is what happened when Spencer Dinwiddie ended up leading the ship when Luka was out. They gave him 6 plays to run, and they kept it super duper simple. And this is what Spencer told the Dallas Morning News. Coach Kidd, one of the greatest point guards of all time. He simplifies everything and makes sure it's streamlined and what it needs to be. Processing information, and a lot of information, is hard. Making it more complex than it needs to be makes it even worse. Like, it makes the goal almost unachievable and unattainable. That's what we strive to do here, is make complex shit sound as simple as it possibly can. And sometimes it takes a very high brain processor in order to make things that are complex simple. I'm not going to get into the accuracy of the processing speed of Wes Unseld Jr. at this time. He probably summed up what's happening in Washington as well as anyone when Spencer Dinwiddie said this. I think Washington's kind of in flux. You're looking at their roster. They were trying to get Beal to sign the Supermax. They still are. They've got a bunch of young guys like Denny, Rui that they need to develop. Then you got guys that came from the Lakers that wanted expanded roles. They all wanted to be the guy. You got a first-time head coach. So you've got all these different dynamics going on where people are trying to establish themselves in whatever roles or positions they may want to be in the league for the next 5 to 10 years. With that being said, all those balls in the air, hard juggling process, tough to do for any coach, any organization. The amount of ricochet shots being said in that paragraph, everyone is power-mongering. Everyone is fighting for an expanded role. No one was willing to sacrifice, and you have a new head coach who doesn't know how to manage egos, and that shit is disastrous. Then you've got Bradley Beal that goes down with a season-ending injury, has surgery, and it's night-night sleep mask. But I'm looking forward to see what Dinwiddie does. I'm looking forward to being on the lookout for the Mavs, and if you're a Mavs fan, there's a lot to be excited about. And on top of that, the schedule. Let's talk about the schedule here for another second. Very favorable. Power rankings show that there are only 4 teams that the Mavs are not favored against for the remainder of the schedule. They might even progress to a 4 seed and get home court against the Jazz. There's a possibility that it's going to be 4-5, Jazz and Mavs. It just depends on who's going to get home court advantage. Mavs have won 7 of 9 clutch games, defined as a game within 5 points within 5 minutes. And the big criticism of Luka over the course of his tenure has been that the Mavs have sucked in the clutch. But since he returned January 1st, the Mavericks are 11-5 in clutch games with a net rating of plus 4.3. Nerd shit. The Mavericks are 12th in both offensive and defensive rating during that time span, during those critical clutch moments. And the numbers have only improved with Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. Mavericks are now 5-1 since they've acquired those two in clutch games. And they have a net rating during that time period of plus 72.7. Small sample size, but pretty incredible. And now that Rick Carlisle is gone and the stench of him is gone, Luke is actually dunking on people. Luke is happy. He's smiling. He's laughing and joking in his post-game pressers. He likes this team, even more so now that Kristaps Porzingis is fucking gone. All the shit he didn't want on the team, gone. All the players that help him become better here. Does that mean they're going to make it to the finals? Probably not. But they could upset somebody. And it shows. Luka, like I said, skying for dunks. Brunson shooting 70% from the field. And Dinwiddie might have just found himself a long-term home. Cute!